Well, joining me in the studio right now is Kim McGuinness, who is State Manager for realestate.com.au. So we've got all the hard questions for you, Kim. How are you going?
Very well, Tim. Yourself?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Good.
Let's start off with how's the year started for you?
Started very well. It's an interesting phenomenon with online marketing that January, for us in particular, is actually the most visited month of the year on realestate.com.au. So we always enjoy a lot of traffic throughout the month of January, and this year was no exception.
Okay. What do you put that down to?
I think it's mum and dad are home on holidays mostly, so they've got an opportunity to sit down and have a bit of a browse through the site and spend some time looking at property that they are interested in, or do some research if they're thinking about selling.
Yep.
Plus, of course, traditionally not as many opens happening, so they've got instead of going to opens, they can spend time online doing that research and looking through the photos and videos, etc. of the properties.
Okay. When you look at how realestate.com.au has evolved over the last however many years,
yep.
It seems to me exponentially, going rapidly up.
Yeah.
What's going to happen over the next couple of years? What's the grand plan in terms of online and so forth?
Look, it's an interesting question, because I can remember when I started with the company 8.5 years ago. The first month I started, we celebrated 1 million unique viewers in that month.
Across Australia?
Across Australia.
Yep.
8.5 years later, we're now doing about 7.3, 7.4 or 5 per month. So it has been amazing growth.
Yeah.
We thought we'd bottom out at about 4 million, then we thought 5 million, and then we just gave up and said, well, let's just see where it takes us. So.
Yeah.
I think the sky's the limit. People are embracing online so much that it's really up to the consumers as to how much they view it. I think the enhancements are what's going to be interesting. So the last time I was on, we talked about the coming of video.
Yes.
It's now here, as you know. We now have video embedded into our realestate.com.au site, and we think that's going to be one of 2 major growth spurts for property online going forward.
Have you seen any indicative statistics for that at the moment?
A lot of gut feel stuff at the moment, because
Yep.
it's still fairly new. It only came in November, December, so
Yes.
we'll give ourselves a number of months to have a look at the analysis of the data. But there's plenty of that we can look at, and we'll be able to feed that back then to agents, who in turn can feed it back to their vendors
Yep.
about what's the best way to do video if they want to do it. And we'll give them ideas of users, how much time they spend looking at video, and what engagement differences it makes.
Okay, and so how many agents have embraced it? I know one has.
I know you guys have jumped all over it, which is terrific, and it makes a difference.
Yeah.
We've got the ability to measure 22 individual interactions with each property and brand that's on the site. Video engagement is one of those. We've seen a spike in that already. We've done some analysis on some of the properties that you guys have online, and the video is absolutely making a difference in terms of the amount of time that someone spends looking at a property, therefore their engagement with it.
Okay.
And then, because they're deeper engaged with it, we find that they tend to make more inquiry about that property. So we think it's going to have a pretty significant impact.
All right. You mentioned other enhancements.
Yep.
Where to from here? I mean, we're only talking the back of video for a couple of months.
Yeah.
But what else is in the pipeline?
We think that mobile is going to be the other really significant enhancement in online marketing of property. So today there's about 40% of the traffic that we have coming to our site comes via mobile devices, so smartphones, tablets, etc.
Okay.
What's been interesting with that, though, is that it's actually in conjunction with the traffic that's on our desktop. So that's continued to grow. So people are actually using their mobile devices during the day,
Yes.
and then at night going home and further looking on their computers, on their desktops.
Okay. 40% you mentioned. Over what period have we reached that sort of point?
Yeah, mobile's been really humming along now for about 18 months.
Okay.
So, for example, we've had 1.3 million downloads of our mobile apps in the space of just on 18 months.
Okay.
That's quite extraordinary. So we know that consumers are really embracing the ability to look at property, particularly when they're out and about doing their open inspections. They can go into the property, email the agent from their mobile phone whilst they're on the spot, look at floor plans, save dates for auctions, etc., etc. So it's really, really advantageous for them to use it that way.
Certainly those little devices of saving dates and times are terrific, I'm sure, for a buyer. Moving into the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, are we going to see online being the premier way to look at property?
Being the state manager of an online company, obviously I'm going to say yes, but
sure.
if you've only got to look at history to see how that's pointing. Look, I've always been and will continue to be a big advocate for having a suitable mobile a spending mix on your marketing. So you've got to get that marketing mix right. Now that means not just one avenue, and it's not just only internet. You've got to have the mix right.
Yep.
But you've got to have a good return on investment in what you're putting in. So the consumers are the ones that are telling us and the real estate industry that they want to see property online. We're fortunate they've chosen us as the main vehicle to do that. But it's the consumers that are driving the growth. It's not us. They're the ones that are making the numbers grow so quickly.
Okay. Perhaps without talking directly about competitors from your point of view, we know in Adelaide that realestate.com.au has by far and away the biggest following.
Yep.
Is that the same across the rest of the states? Is there disparities across other states?
We're fortunate in SA. We have a large chunk of the market. So just to talk about South Australia for a moment, we average about 1.4 million searches per month, which is quite extraordinary when you think about it.
Yep.
Our nearest competitor is about 240,000, which is significant in itself.
Yep.
Around Australia, we number one across the country.
Yes.
Some markets are tighter than others. In New South Wales, it's probably our battleground.
Right.
Where because it's such a large major capital city, and Sydney has almost little cities within it.
Yes.
So some of those are dominated by us, some are dominated by Domain, and overall we believe we have the edge on them, but other than Sydney, we have a significant market share outside of that.
Okay. Just jumping back and thinking about the apps, smartphones, iPads, etc., it strikes me that that space is changing rapidly in terms of the ability to make it work quicker and just look so much sharper.
Yeah.
Anything else in the on the horizon that you're aware of?
Yeah, that's a constant issue for us, is to make sure that we're giving the best representation of the properties that we can. You'll see, and this is a bit of a first because we haven't talked about it in public yet, but within about 6 weeks you'll see a complete revamp of the way that our mobile phone app looks.
Okay.
So at the moment, as you know, you've got the ability to make properties stand out by having premieres or highlights and features.
Yes.
We're going to make those, the way that those properties appear on desktop, replicated onto the mobile as well.
Brilliant.
So the vendors who actually invest a little more to have their property stand out more will gain that benefit on mobile as well.
Excellent. Finally, we got a scoop. Kim, stick with us. We're going to go and have a look at some of our sold properties in our Going, Gone segment.